Until now, you've been using shortcuts for playback, but Sibelius also has transport controls, which provide additional options for playing back your score, stopping playback, rewinding, fast-forwarding, and more. The basic transport controls are available in the ribbon at the Play tab, Transport Group. The larger Transport panel provides access to the same transport controls found in the ribbon, plus additional features that you may find helpful. So let's take a look at Sibelius's playback controls from within the Transport panel. To access the Transport panel, visit the View tab, the Panels group, and check Transport. Or you can use the shortcut Command-Option-Y on Mac or Control-Alt-Y on Windows. For learning purposes, you'll want to make sure that your green playback line is visible throughout this video. So let's go ahead and go back into the View tab in Visibles group and check the playback line. The top row of the Transport panel contains the following buttons and features from left to right. The first button is Move Playback Line to Start. This button causes the green playback line to move to the very beginning of your score so that you can use spacebar to play back your score from the beginning. You can also move the playback line to the start of the score by using the shortcut Command left bracket on Mac or Control left bracket on Windows. Now, incidentally, this is another instance where we're employing the theme Command or Control does more. The bracket keys move the playback line in small increments, if you remember, and Command or Control bracket moves them all the way to the beginning, or Command Control right bracket will move it all the way to the end. The next button in the Transport panel is Rewind. This is just like using the left bracket key. It'll move the playback line by small increments to the left. The next button is Play, which behaves just like using the spacebar shortcut. It will play and pause the score at the green playback line location. Next is the Stop button, and it's just like using the spacebar or escape key during playback. It'll just stop playback for you. The Fast Forward button works just like using the right bracket key. It will move the playback line in small increments to the right. And the Move Playback Line to End button causes the green playback line to move all the way to the very end of the score. Now, I've just moved it, so I'm going to use Command End to move to the very end of my score, and you can see my green playback line is at the very, very end. Now, I don't know why anyone would want to use this feature to get your playback line to the end, since you can't really begin playback at the end of the score, but you can do it. The remaining buttons on the top line of the Transport panel have not yet been discussed. I'll provide you with a quick definition for each so that you can have an idea of what they're used for. The red Record button is reserved for FlexiTime Note Input, which is Sibelius's real-time recording feature. We won't be getting to this feature in this course, but you're welcome to experiment with it a bit if you'd like to. The red Conductor button is for Sibelius's Record Live Tempo feature. It essentially allows you to record an interpretive tempo for your score, which the score then follows. The Lightning Bolt button will toggle live playback on and off. This gives Sibelius the ability to play back the performance of your score, but only if you've played the music in live using FlexiTime or if you've imported it from a MIDI file that's been recorded live. It certainly doesn't hurt to leave this button on. If you have recorded a live tempo for your score, you can use the black and gray Conductor button, which turns blue when selected, to toggle your recorded live tempo on and off. And finally, a button you may actually use quite often as a beginner in Sibelius, the Metronome button will toggle your file's click on and off. If the Metronome button is blue, it is on, and if it is gray, it is off. Below the buttons in the Transport panel, there are two sliders and an information readout. This large slider here, right below the buttons, that covers the entire length of the Transport panel, is called the Timeline slider. It indicates where your playback line is located in relation to your whole score. If you drag the slider, and you'll want to do this slowly, your playback line will move. There we go. Now, placing your slider as far to the left as possible will cause your playback line to appear at the very beginning of your score, and moving the slider as far to the right as possible will move your playback line to the very end of the score. Now, you may have noticed that as the playback line position changes, the information in this location field right here is updated. This readout displays real-time information and the bar beat location of the playback line, as well as the tempo assigned at the area where the playback line is currently located. The smaller slider on the right-hand side of the transport panel is the tempo slider. It provides a temporary way for you to change the tempo of your score's playback. To temporarily slow down playback, drag the slider to the left. And to temporarily speed up the playback of your score, drag the slider to the right. And we can test this out. Let's go ahead and go all the way back to the beginning and press play. And you can see that it's playing back a lot faster than it used to. We can slow it way, way down. Command left bracket to get to the beginning. Press play. And it's nice and slow. When you're finished working with tempo adjustments, always remember to return that tempo slider to its centered or locked-in position so that the tempo of your playback will match the tempo that's notated on your score page. So I'm going to grab this slider, and as I move it to the center, eventually it's going to lock right in, right there. Now I can still keep going, but if I keep going to the right a little and then go back to the left, it's going to lock in right in the center. And that means that the tempo that I'm at here with this slider matches right here what's notated in my score. So the transport panel is a helpful, condensed way to have access to quite a few playback features. Remember that you can access the transport controls also in that Play tab here in the transport group. You can also access many of the additional playback features I just defined for you in the Live Tempo area of the Play tab, as well as in the Live Playback group in the Play tab of the ribbon.